The Danube. I swear that riding in the tranquility of this legendary river was music to our ears. It's one of the most beautiful cycling routes we have done in our lives. So, if you're interested in seeing how we did it in ultralight cyclotouring in the fall of 2023, stay in front of your screen. We're leaving. First question, where's the Danube? It is the second largest river in Europe and crosses 10 countries. It rises in Germany in the Black Forest and flows into the Black Sea 2,850 kilometers further. Second question, which part can you cycle? Rejoice! A route using cycle paths and quiet roads has been designed by the Eurovelo organization, the Eurovelo 6, which follows the Danube to its mouth. Third question, which section will we cycle considering that we want to leave for a month and do at least 1,000 kilometers? We already knew that the most popular section, because magnificent, was in Austria from Passau to Bratislava, but we wanted to do at least double that. As I have wanted to visit the Audi factory in Ingolstadt for a long time, and we both dreamed of Budapest, we extend the route between these two cities and we're finally exceeding our 1,000 kilometer. Logistically, we plan to arrive by plane in Budapest and take a direct train to Munich, from where we could get on our bike, join the Danube in Ingolstadt and follow the river, here in blue, to Budapest. Bingo! Our route is decided, we start packing our bags. Speaking of luggage, did you notice in the title of this video that we specified ultralight cyclotouring? It's because since 2021, we have opted for a new way of traveling that is so much simpler. With a folding bike and minimal panniers, everything fits into just 2 suitcases each. In the first suitcase here, we put the empty panniers, the camping equipment and the bike. This suitcase will be the checked baggage. The second suitcase for linen, hygiene kit and helmet is our cabin baggage. With 2 suitcases, everything is simpler, whether in a taxi, for baggage check-in at no additional cost, and collection on the regular carousel at the same time as everyone else. And we can even take them to our little hotel room in Budapest, and we will leave our empty suitcases in their storage in order to pick them up at the end of the trip. Here we are in Budapest on September 7. The weather is warm and radiant, and we enjoy the Hungarian capital with its many districts for 3 days. We also have the immense pleasure of running the half marathon on the banks of the Danube, which we completed together. Yay! The next day, we are already dreaming of cycling. So we go to the train station, fold the bikes, which will simply be stored behind our seats, and we are on our way to Munich for about 6 hours. Here we are in Germany, in Munich, and our first goal is to reach the Danube in Ingolstadt, taking a route suggested by a German cyclotouring site whose address is below. Munich is really great for cyclists. There are cycle paths everywhere and there are plenty of cyclists of all ages. We leave the city center via the magnificent Englischer Garden Trail, and in less than a few kilometers, we are surprised to already be in nature. The proposed paths are really varied, and there are very few obstacles, although in Kranzberg, under 30 degrees Celsius, let yourself be tempted by a dip at the public beach. We then hit the road again in this rural setting to get to our warm showers. In case you did not know, Warm Shower is an international organization of cyclists who welcome other cyclists for a shower and a place to sleep. This evening, we are the privileged guests of Vero and Mark, and we take the opportunity to ask lots of questions about German culture and the region. The next morning, there is this smell in the countryside, but what is it? Well, we are in Bavaria, the most fertile region for hops in Germany. How lucky we are to see these incredibly tall plants being harvested for miles. We also see the separation of the fruit from its stem in several places. So what a joy to have this nectar delivered to our table. Clearly, in Germany, there is a beautiful symbiosis between beer and cycling. And finally, here we are in Ingolstadt, the start of our journey along the Danube, starting with the German section to Passau. After a memorable visit to the Audi factory, we can't wait to discover the Eurovelo 6. So here we go, let the fun begin. We are really delighted. The infrastructure for cyclists is impressive and the signage is abundant and of high quality. There are many campsites always near the Danube. This will be our choice for 3/4 of our bedtimes. No reservation necessary in September, but be careful. Several campsites close on October 1st. Don't miss Regensburg. This city has 850 buildings listed by UNESCO, including 70 churches in the Old Town. We are welcomed there by our guides Maria and Remy, cyclists we met in Greece last spring. Question: how many churches are there in this scene? Which ends with the St. Peter's Cathedral where the bishop, who became Pope Benedict, practiced. Answer: 5 churches. Amazing! Hungry? Maria then introduces us to a specialty, the Bratwurstkipferl, a delicious sandwich topped with sausage, sauerkraut and sweet mustard. Yummy! The next morning, after saying goodbye to our friends, we leave for Passau, the other city not to be missed in this German segment. Passau, nicknamed the Venice of the North, is at the crossroad of 3 rivers. We find a great campsite on the banks of the Ilz River. The weather is grey, but there's no fear of a flood, like those which have marked the history of the city. Imagine, 10.2 meters in 2013. So what to do in Passau? We begin with a recital in St. Stephen's Cathedral with its 18,000 pipe organ. But our favorite is the largest glass museum in the world, a phenomenal quantity of glass pieces of all kinds. We love this city for cyclists, with its quaint streets and cafes. Austria! This is the section most frequented by cyclists going from Passau to Bratislava via Linz and Vienna. From the start, a poster reminds us that in Austria, we greet each other with a Grüß Gott rather than the German Guten Tag. In Austria, the cycle paths are impeccable. They are 100% asphalted and meticulously maintained. Are they overcrowded? Well, maybe in summer, but from mid-September to mid-October, it's really quiet. Just a few pedestrians and cyclists passing us on their e-bikes. Also, the signage is exemplary, so much so that we rarely consult our GPS, only if the posters become a little too complex. On our first day in Austria, we found a cute campsite in Schlögen, and we climbed for a little over an hour to the observatory, in order to admire in person the impressive Schlögen loop that we had seen 1,000 times in photos, but in real life, it's not the same. For our taste, it's the most beautiful meander of the Danube, followed by the most beautiful section of valley to cycle. Our next favorites were in the city of Linz. On the one end, at the ARS Electronic Center, where artificial intelligence takes precedence, for example, by drawing inspiration from the pianist's playings to create dancing shapes, or by detecting our movements to generate 3-dimensional shapes. The other attraction of Linz was for the 200 graffitis and murals, a resident project to revitalize the port area. Pretty cool. The next day, we discovered completely by chance in the village of Aston a building that reminds us of our favorite architect, Frank Gehry. We were wrong. It's a German design museum created by a passionate baker with an innovative structure made entirely of wood. The museum, called PANEUM, tells us about bread in all its forms through objects from all over the world. And here we are in Sankt-Florian to visit an abbey, a mecca of music whose residents are part of one of the oldest boys' choir in Europe. The visit is great, a library of 130,000 volumes, the organ of the famous composer Anton Bruckner, the same one who rests in the crypt in front of a rather silent crowd. This is where we park our bikes, because this evening we are staying at the abbey. And we are enjoying a vegetarian meal with seasonal vegetables, squash and mushrooms. The next day, we leave our comfortable room on this coldest morning of our trip with 8 degrees Celsius. The countryside is magnificent, I love the color match. And we return to the magnificent Danube to get to the city of Ybbs with its bicycle museum. We can clearly see that the Austrians have loved this type of transport for a long time, even back when the first tires were sewn. I take this opportunity to scare myself on a high-wheeler, and just for that, this museum was worth it. We get on our bikes again to enter the Wachau, that is to say the wine region between Melk and Krems over 36 kilometers. Imagine a valley where each of the two sides is filled with vines. Each bank is also served by one cycle path, and there are tempting kiosks on both sides. The problem is that it forces us to make difficult choices. Which side are we going on? Fortunately, there are often charming little ferries. And here is our favorite little hilltop village with its narrow streets full of surprises, Dürnstein. Let's talk camping. In Austria, campsites are abundant and impeccably clean. How do they keep it clean? They provide the squeegee and ask everyone to participate in cleaning their little corner after use. Also, campsites almost always have a restaurant where you can have an evening or even morning meal without having to go out into town. Moreover, before arriving in Vienna, a city where hotels are exorbitant, we were recommended the Klosterneuburg campsite, close to the station of the comfortable commuter train, taking us to Vienna in 30 minutes and operating even after midnight. Vienna, capital of music. With so much to see, and there's something for everyone. On the one hand, Lucy preferred different museums for their great works. And street art. On the other hand, Alain preferred Viennese cafes, the Sachertorte, Art Nouveau architecture, and a bicycle made by a 3D printer. And together we loved everything Hundertwasser did, as much his talents as an architect for his village with its colorful houses, and his design of the Vienna incinerator, and his paintings. And for nothing in the world we didn't want to miss a classical concert with the Vienna Symphony Orchestra. And it is with the head full of music that we leave Vienna by taking a superb cycle path on a 20-kilometer long island in the center of the Danube. There are even bridges for bicycles and pedestrians in multiple places. Well done, Austrians. In the afternoon, we change country to Slovakia and arrive in Bratislava. We take a break to look for a campsite on October 1st, only to realize that it closed yesterday. That's when I turn my head to see a boat hotel that I heard good things about. And it will be the most beautiful room of our trip, with an incredible view of the city and its castle. Bratislava immediately appeals to us, notably through the harmonious integration of sustainable means of transport, but also through its architecture, its original art, and the delicious food. We are approaching the last part of our trip from Bratislava to Budapest, and as the Danube separates Slovakia and Hungary, we will often move from one country to another depending on the attractions. First challenge, the language. Slovak and Hungarian are incomprehensible to us. Even a simple grocery store opening schedule is a challenge. We will still get by trying English, sign language, or using Google Translate. We quickly realized that Hungarians are crazy about thermal baths. They are everywhere, especially on our way to Mozonmagyarovar, Komárom, and Esztergom. It's easy to be convinced that after a good day of cycling, a thermal bath is great, especially since many campsites are neighbors and affiliated with these places. In terms of cycle paths, they are still predominant and in very varied environments. On the other hand, they are not always impeccable like in Austria, but there's nothing to complain about. It is here in Hungary that we are celebrating our 1000th kilometer. What could be better than a good feast to mark this milestone? Speaking of food, there were plenty of restaurants, from the luxurious bistros to simple cafes, markets in towns and villages, but we mainly frequented supermarkets with a preference for the Billa chain, because of their abundance of healthy prepared meals that we brought on picnics to magnificent places. And unfortunately, the last days of this wonderful journey are coming too quickly. We take one last ferry with lots of good memories of this dear Danube. And let's finish in style on an exceptional cycle path to Budapest for a festive arrival.
Hey hey! C'est fini, on a réussi, on a fait la boucle.
1200 kilometers of happiness in 1 month, including 20 days of cycling, an average of 60 kilometers per day. In conclusion, for an easy and unforgettable trip, you absolutely must put the Danube on your bucket list. Viszontlátásra!